Shout out Sniper T on the beat.
Tamara to the break of dawn is on the rise, with life on the forefront of the mind. So line for line, you can ride this brain train and you can change your station without even touching the dial. So relax, stay a little bit, but listen for a while. And whether you're bumping this in the whip or in a business fit, it's a meeting you won't want to miss. A meeting for a meal to feed the soul with words for the mind. So sit back, enjoy the ride. Time to take off, it's time to fly. Cause Tamara till the break of dawn is on the rise.
Hey y'all, hey, it's me, Tamara. Woo! If ever, and I've said this before, but if ever there was a week y'all were not gonna get an episode, it might have been this week. You know what I'm saying? This has been, there's, I don't even know. There's just a lot that's been going on. But next week is when I'll kind of give y'all insight into some of the major changes in my life. I'm actually recording an episode with Juice from Chillin' with Juice podcast to kind of reveal that or whatever. But in the meanwhile, I have a quick episode where I just kind of want to challenge you and encourage you, just kind of based on what I'm seeing going on in my life. Real quick though, let me back up. New listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. New episodes drop every Thursday. As you'll be able to tell by this episode, I usually talk about my life and the ways that I'm trying to grow. For all my regular listeners, thank you so much for your support. I appreciate y'all continuing to listen, continuing to rock with me and all that good stuff. Thanks for the feedback that I get whenever that happens. Let's see, what else do I normally? Oh, if you're not, you should totally be following me on social media. So the link to my Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, your girl's on TikTok. That's in the episode notes. If you want to follow my business page, I run a consulting agency. That can be found on my website. So the link to my website is in the episode notes as well. Let's see what else. As you know, we did not have podcast happy hour this month. For September, depending on when you listen to this, we just really needed to take a break, and we will be back next month though. Khris is hosting, and it's gonna be a Halloween extravaganza. I don't know exactly what that means. I don't even know if that's the word that she would use, but I know she definitely has something planned, and more to come on that. We don't have a date set or anything like that, but we will definitely be back for that. We ain't gone. We just took a break. We went a year straight, no breaks, no missed happy hours, and then we all just kind of needed to take a break. So, which side note, we watched Cruella, the movie, right? And if you've seen 101 Dalmatians, the cartoon, I feel like there was a live action one, and I've kind of stayed away from live action. Nah, this is a cartoon. I'm fine with it just being a cartoon. Some stuff, the nostalgia and just the memories from my childhood, the older I get, the more I'm learning I don't really need to revisit all these movies that they remake. Sometimes I just need to stick with, you know what I'm saying? Stick with what I know. And so, but we watched Cruella. And so, like I said, if you watched 101 Dalmatians, you know that Cruella is the villain in the movie. And it's really interesting because when we choose these movies, or whoever chooses them, because it kind of fluctuates. I usually don't choose them because I'm just kind of like, one, I don't really be all big on movies like that, like whatever. But also, I'm just there for the laughs and the experience or whatever. So it's kind of like, I don't really care what we watch, even if there's been movies that I would never watch again and weren't my favorite, but we could laugh through it or whatever. So I though really enjoyed that movie. I did not expect to, and I'm not gonna give any spoilers or anything, but I didn't expect that her origin story would give me compassion for her. You know what I'm saying? So, and me saying that don't tell you nothing because you would never guess the things that happen in this movie. So really good movie. You should check it out. It's on Disney Plus. I mean, it's probably other places, but that's where we watched it. So but yeah, let's get into my quick topics because this for real is going to be a quick episode because I only have two things I want to talk about. So the first one is triggers. We'll start with the challenge first, then we'll get into the encouragement so the episode can end on a less, I don't know, challenging note or whatever. I though have had a lot of different scenarios in the past few weeks that I have really been triggered, and it has really revealed revealed a lot to me about things that I didn't even necessarily realize matter to me. I had a scenario, and I'm going to talk very vaguely about all of these on purpose. And y'all know I normally am a little bit more detailed about stuff, but it just is what it is for these scenarios, just because it just is what it is. So the first thing is I had a scenario where I saw that the way that I was treated in a situation, and it's a situation that I've seen the way others were treated in this same situation, and I didn't get the same treatment as them. And as much as I wanted to pretend that I didn't care, I really felt some type of way, and I really felt like not disrespected, but just kind of like slighted or yeah, made to feel less than. And the interesting thing about it is that really no one can make you feel any way. We choose how we respond to the things that happen to us in life. So I really tried to ignore and act like I didn't care and act like it didn't bother me that I saw that I was getting different treatment, than other people that I had seen go through this same thing that I was going through and do the same thing that I was doing. And man, it's just interesting because sometimes you pour your all into something, and then when you don't feel appreciated, that's the word I'm looking for. I didn't really think it mattered for me to feel appreciated, but I'm seeing that when I pour my man, really, I guess every scenario that has bothered me lately has tied to that, where whatever I do, or wherever I work, or wherever I volunteer, or whatever I attach my name to, or whatever. I am not perfect, of course. I would never say that. But what I will say is I put my all into everything that I do. What that looks like for me. It may look different for somebody else, but for being realistic and whatever, especially being someone who has such a busy schedule, because there's just it's so interesting. There's so many different things that I'm doing, even if you just take into consideration the business is not just one thing. The business is one phase has launched, but there's many different things that I'm preparing. And also I have to, in the midst of trying to prepare it and grow it and challenge myself to do things that maybe are outside of my comfort zone so the company can grow. So I feel like, I don't think I talked about this on here, trying to grow in the sales side of things, because it's cool to have a company, but you have to have clients. And so trying to grow in that side of things, because sales really isn't my favorite thing to do, and it never has been, but it's necessary for the purposes of trying to grow my business. And so there's trying to grow the business, but then there's also trying to maintain where I'm at and all these things. Then there's podcasting, and that's more so a creative outlet. So I put my all into it, but it just looks different because you don't see me promoting my podcast every day. I have 3 days per week that have specific types of, social media posts that goes out, and that's it. Now I am in retweet groups, so if you've been a guest on my show, you know that there will be a lot of retweets because I'm in retweet groups, but I only actually put out 3 social media posts per week for my podcast. Well, 4, excuse me, if I do the Wednesday, letting y'all know YouTube is up if I record on time, because the few weeks that I don't record until Wednesday, then you don't get a Wednesday social media post because I'm still recording. But as long as the episode is on time, because my drop day is Thursday, you feel me, then we good. But um, and then there's blogging, and I only do 4 social media posts for that as well. But again, I'm in a retweet group. So, and then some people just are kind enough to retweet when they see my content on the timeline. So it's kind of like, for that though, I only minimally, I feel like, in comparison to what I see others do, even in the retweet groups I'm in, like how many times I'll see maybe somebody retweet even the same tweet. And it's not that I don't want to be heard or people to read my blog, but again, this is for me. This is a creative outlet for me, and so I don't get as caught up in, like, I've even kind of gotten away from looking at download numbers just because trends, the ebb and flow of trends, and the ebb and flow of downloads, anyways, I've kind of talked about that on here. I noticed where certain times of the year numbers dip down, and it's kind of like, I don't want that. I'm not doing this for any other purposes than me, and then also leaving some stuff behind for whenever I go, my kids and the rest of my family and whoever cares will have however long, about to be coming up on 2 years, y'all, in November, but we will have however much content of, this is what she thought, this is what she, or these are the creative things that she tried to do or whatever. Speaking of which, on Monday, October 4th. So if you listen to this on time or whatever, and if you're following me on social media, you've seen me advertising the next karaoke battles coming, West Side Connection. Shout out to Baylor, Khris, and Ivan. And so Baylor is from BTG for President. Khris, man, y'all know who Khris is, but she's from Shenanigans with Friends, also part of the podcast Happy Hour, which I guess I should have said this earlier. Y'all got to excuse, I probably sound sick, and I'm just not sure if it's allergies, or I'm not really at this point 100% sure what's happening. But it just is what it is. It's not anything that's like affecting me in the sense of stopping me from doing what I need to do, which I don't really need to go a ton of places. So, that, but I just guess I thought I should say that because I feel like I sound sick, and I probably do. But this time of year, when the weather changes, allergies flare up, all kinds of things start happening. So this is pretty like on track with what happens this time of year. But anyways, yeah. And then Ivan is from Views from the Seven podcast. So they have agreed to be the next contestants on the next karaoke battle. And I think this may be something that I do probably not more than twice a year. But the thing about it that I want to make clear is these are all like separate event. So it's not like whoever, like we know Autumn won the first one. Well, she's not going to compete for to keep her crown, as you could tell, but because there are two or three, completely different contestants on the next battle. And then if there's a next battle, which I wasn't necessarily sure how often or when, it's kind of like whenever I feel like, ooh, I'm in the mood to do another karaoke battle. Um, it'll be three new contestants, and a lot of reason why I do that is I don't want to just have the same three people. Like, I don't want this because I'm trying to create vibes for whatever I do. And so there's always a certain vibe I'm going for when I put guests together that are like not like I don't put people from the same the show. So, last time it was Autumn, Juice, and Mike and they're all from different podcasts. This time we have Khris, Baylor, and Ivan. They're all from different podcasts. So it's kind of like there's just a certain vibe that I envision whenever I do anything, and that's kind of what I go for. But Monday, October 4th, I digress, at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, and 5:30 Pacific will be the West Side Connection karaoke battle. It's going to be a live stream live on my Facebook. So Tamara Till the Break of Dawn is the Facebook name. It's going to be live on my Twitter and also on YouTube. So if you go to my website and you want to like the Facebook page, go to the podcast tab and there's a link in there. Again, my website's in the episode notes. So yeah, then next month, to celebrate my 2-year anniversary, I am actually doing another spoken word night. So this is going to be something where you're going to see the same three people, because I just see that what we did last time. So Lindsey, she's not a podcaster. She's just a really good friend of mine. I'd say one of my best friends, but I struggle with the term best friend, and she kind of understands that about me just because I've given that title. And I feel like I've talked about this on here before. I've given that title to people, and I don't talk to either of the people that like really had that term best friend. So it's kind of like, and I've always struggled with it because if you think about it from the English language standpoint, to say that something is the best, only one can be the best. So it's kind of like, how can you have more than one best friend when best is only one can be the best? So I've always struggled with the term best friend, because there's always been different seasons and different people that have played like that role. Not a ton of different people. I don't throw that, out there like that, but there's been more than one person that's been my best friend at different seasons. And so anyways, I digress. Lindsey and Penrose are coming back and we're going to do another spoken word night. So we are kind of setting the date because my 2-year anniversary is actually on November 12th, which is a Friday. We are not 100% sure if it's going to actually be that date, but the plan is to sometime that week have a live show, doing another spoken word night. If you missed last ones, I will actually put the link to the YouTube in the episode notes. What's so dope about it and why it's always that's going to be probably the one thing besides podcast happy hour where you'll really just see the three of us. Because the thing about it is, when it comes to creatives, I don't really like to kind of say, hey, write about this specifically. So I don't think I gave, if I remember correctly, we didn't have a theme. We didn't have anything. I just said, hey, write this many pieces about this length. this is going to be the order of the night of like who will go when, and that's it. And what happened is what we wrote went together as if we wrote it together, but we didn't. And you can't like fake that. You can't really just recreate that with anyone, because we all just, yeah, just the way that went. And so for that, that's kind of why it's like, okay, it's gonna, plus I don't know a ton of poets anyway, you know what I mean? But again, the vibe, and I knew I just can I am really good at knowing personalities and this, that, and the other, and I pay attention. Like if I listen to your show, and it's the psychology degree person in me, so it's not like I'm out here really just trying to figure people out. I can't help it. That's just how I am. I pay attention to the behavior patterns of people. I kind of have all my life, and so I am so off topic. Let me finish this. And so I pay attention to stuff. And that's why when I put events together for live shows or even episodes, there's always a certain vibe I want when I bring certain guests on. Like it's intentional. But that's also why I don't have just anybody on my show, because if I don't have rapport with you, like this show is about my life. So if I don't have rapport with you, why would I put you on my show? Now, I did have Attorneys with Swag on that one time. That was a completely different type of episode, excuse me. But for the most part, if I don't have some sort of rapport with you, you're not going to be on here. Just, and really, I don't even have to explain that, but I'm so off topic. So let's get back to triggers, because that's what I was talking about. Yeah, feeling not appreciated. I really realized, because I put my all into whatever it is that I'm doing to try to support, to try to encourage, to try to help people get whatever it is their goal, or just whatever, or wherever I work, I put my all in because that's just who I am. And so it's kind of like when I have situations where I feel like somebody doesn't appreciate me, I'm starting to realize, because it's actually happened a lot in the last few weeks, that how much of a trigger that is. But my challenge to myself has been to, and I've said this on here before, like you have to know your worth. And sometimes when you get into these situations with people, because I had a situation, I'm not going to go all into it because I don't think this person would necessarily want me talking about this on here, but I have to somewhat talk about it, again, super vaguely. But I had a situation recently where it involved arguing, me putting my hands on somebody, and the police being called. And it sounds more extreme than it is, but I'm gonna just let y'all think whatever y'all want, because again, I don't know that the person that it involves would want it to be talked about on here. And one thing I do, like, even if I just sidebar, even when I talk about my kids on here, especially when it's getting into stuff that's going on in their life, I ask them first. You know what I mean? Because it's like, this is where whoever could listen and put it out there. Are you okay with me discussing this? Yes, this is about my life and how I'm trying to grow, but it also affects other people that are not, like, they're not out here talking about it. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, I had this situation, and it's kind of like, man, that's another thing. It's like, I am usually a pretty level-headed person. I'm usually pretty just, I don't really yell. I don't really, just in general, I'm a person that if we can't just talk through it or whatever, I'll shut down and cut you off. If I see that this conversation is going nowhere, I'll end the conversation before I argue and go back and forth and do all that extra. Definitely don't get into like putting my hands on people and doing all this other stuff. That's just not really me. But it's like sometimes people take you there when you get triggered, and again, that's on me to know my worth. And when someone is trying to kind of like accuse me of things that are not me, or even say things about me that are not me, I can't internalize that, and I can't let that determine how I respond to whatever, because I don't get to control everything that happens to me, but it's up to me to control how I respond to it. And a lot of times people they feel like I don't have to prove myself to anybody about anything. But every now and then, sometimes you get in those scenarios where you feel like you got to prove this and prove that or whatever, but it's kind of like you really don't prove anything. If somebody takes you out of your character, really you've allowed them to control you. You know what I'm saying? Because again, I really try to now, I wasn't always like this, but now where I'm at 41 years of age in the year 2021, what I try to do is I really try to have the tough conversations if it's feasible, and if I think that it'll go somewhere, and then if it doesn't, then just kind of wash my hands of the conversation, not necessarily the person, but sometimes then you have to just readjust your expectations. And then for like more extreme things, you may need to cut people off, but it's not always about being quick to cut people off, because you don't want to have the hard conversations either. And so I've really, like I said, been triggered lately, and I've really been just kind of working on um dealing with my triggers, and that's my responsibility. Like, being triggered is not an excuse to act a fool, because if there's some unresolved pain, unresolved hurt, or whatever there, whatever is making me like not like being unappreciated, or whatever is making me respond the way I'm responding when I feel unappreciated. And I'm not going to say I've gotten to the root of that, because I haven't really, I didn't even realize it was a issue until this last incident happened. And then I started thinking like, okay, why did I respond the way I responded? Why am I even now still angry about it? You know what I mean? So I'm still processing through that. This isn't anything that I've arrived, but that's my whole point of what I'm saying, is it's my responsibility to do the work. And it's hard work being emotionally, mentally, relationally, and even spiritually and physically. It's a lot of work to be healthy in all the ways that I always talk about, which are, I feel like, the five pillars of being healthy. Like, we all have minds and emotions, we all have spirits, we all have bodies, and need to be physically healthy, and we all have some sort of relationship with someone. So it's kind of like being healthy is not easy. It is work, but it's work that I do. I don't sit on here. This is why I share how I'm trying to grow. I don't sit on here telling y'all, hey, you got to be healthy, and I'm not doing what I got to do, but I'm also not perfect either, as you can tell. You know what I'm saying? And I never pretend to be perfect ever, because I know me and I'm with me all the time. But I am someone who is working actively towards being healthy, and not like adding to whatever someone else's struggles are, because you don't know the battles that people face. And then sometimes you do, and sometimes you still mess up or whatever, and it just is what it is. But sometimes you got to humble yourself and apologize, even if you feel like you were justified. But it's like, is it more important to be right, or is it more important to restore the relationship? And I'm not saying a fake apology just because it sounds good. Like, you should actually be sorry, and then sometimes you don't need to apologize. There's really not a cookie cutter method towards being healthy in our relationships, but just make the next best choice, or make the next right choice towards doing what you got to do to restore the relationship, if it's worth it. And then if it's not, hey, some people you do got to cut off. You know what I'm saying? So that's enough on triggers. This last one is kind of quick, so this episode probably will be quick. excuse me if I don't go any more buddy trails. Maybe I should stop saying that the episodes are going to be quick because my mind is I'm always going on bunny trails, but I really do in my defense, I really do. I only had two things I wanted to talk about, but I should know I should know better. That's my fault. But this last point, as y'all know, I started a company. As you know, I am in the process of the whole trademarking thing with the brand so it can launch. And as I've been thinking about on this whole journey, because the brand came before the company. Like the brand is something that I built a company really to protect the brand, and then so much came from it because I decided to do more with the company than just have a brand, because there is more that I can do just based on the career that I've had and the experiences that I've gained and all that stuff. um but man, it is very easy if I don't stay diligent. It would be so easy to just not keep going, because what I'm noticing is whenever you're working towards something, it seems like everything and everybody and they mama and just everything will come against you to try to stop you from either fulfilling your purpose, if that's what you feel it is, or achieving your dreams or reaching your goals or whatever. Like achieving your goals sounds good, and it's such an amazing feeling when you actually achieve a goal, or when you get to, like, you see these memes where they're like, remember your, what are the, how do they say it, something like you're walking in what you prayed to have or something like that. So here's a small thing. I always wanted a SUV. I don't even know why. And it, for whatever reason, it took me forever in my life to get one. And so then last year for my 40th, when my I used to have a van. When my van, which let's not even talk about how I never wanted a van in the first place. I was never about that life. But I was given two vans when a previous car, somebody hit it, they didn't have insurance and it was totaled, and whatever. So I was gifted two vans over the course of a few years. And then when the transmission started going out on the last van, I ended up actually trading it in and finally got the SUV that I wanted. And so it's interesting because there are a lot of things happening right now that is like, wow, I I prayed. Let's even just talk about blogging. I remember when I had writer's block for a while. That's the whole reason this podcast started, because I had writer's block, but I knew I had to get it out. So I decided to try a different method. Ended up being a huge blessing just because of how I've grown as a person by continuously processing my life. This is basically like my public journal at times. I don't think I would have the bunny trail or the path that led to the brand that I'm gonna launch, that then led to the company that I now run. I don't think any of that would have happened if I didn't have writer's block, honestly, and ended up starting a podcast. So it's just really interesting how sometimes you're in these places where you're finally where you prayed to be, or because I just remember I thought I was never going to be able to write again, and then now that I can, y'all wouldn't know unless you've followed me, all the blogs that I've had over the years, but I can just see where I've grown freer as a writer, and can write in ways that I really couldn't before. But part of it was just the growth I've had as a person, and just being more in tune with my feelings and better able to express them, or even just being okay with expressing certain things and putting it out there and not worrying about how it's going to be perceived or who might feel some type of way or whatever, because I write vaguely, but they're about usually specific things. That's just the type of writer I like to be. I can be specific, but for whatever reason, when it comes to blogging, I like to just focus on the emotion and not so much the circumstances that cause the emotion, because the thing about it is emotions, anybody can relate to emotions, but they may not relate to the exact circumstances. You know what I mean? So if I'm trying to make people feel me, I'm going to more talk about the emotions that I feel more so than what caused it, because sometimes you lose people if they don't relate to that or they've never experienced that. But everybody can relate to feeling frustration or insecurity or whatever. But I say all that to say, when you get where you're, no, we ain't even gonna say when you get there. Getting to wherever it is that you're trying to go, getting there to whatever goal you're trying to achieve, man, you just gotta stay focused. You gotta stick to the script. You got to not allow the obstacles that come against you to stop you. But the crazy thing about it is, and I look at life like battles and kind of like Super Mario Brothers. And I know I've said this on here before, but I'll explain that real quick. So Super Mario Brothers level 1 is just the Goombas. I don't even know if the turtles are on there. The turtles might be on there, but they definitely ain't jumping. Nobody's jumping. People are just walking. It's, easier level monsters. And then the more you go in Super Mario Brothers, it's like when you get to level 2, you're gonna have the Goombas and the turtles, but then you're also gonna have this new monster that's a little bit, I think that's when the turtles start jumping. I could be off track. I ain't played Mario Brothers in a while, but you know what I mean. As you continue and go higher and higher in the levels, the monsters that you fight get harder and harder. But the thing about it is, what I've noticed is that towards the end of the level, that's when, and this is kind of true of a lot of video games as I think about it, towards the end of the level, you might have where the harder monster that's going to be a constant on the next level pops in, and you fight it, you beat it obviously if you come to the next level, and then it's like you've already been prepared to deal with it in the next level, so it's going to come at you more often, but you've been built and prepared to handle it. That's a lot of how life is. Like a lot of the stuff that I'm dealing with now, and I'm not talking about the good things that are happening, I'm talking about the battles that I've faced, the challenges that I'm going through, I should say. These are things that I've gone through before. I've been built for such a time as this. And so it's kind of like, is it annoying that it's happening? Yes, absolutely. I just really wish life would be different than the way that it is. And the thing about it is, there's always going to be something. I don't care if you arrive at achieving your goal, there are always going to be challenges and struggles, because that's just how life is. We're never going to reach this place. And I'm not saying this in a hopeless type of way, because there are challenges, but I would still say life is great, you know what I'm saying? But there's never going to reach a point where there's not some sort of, even if it's just something that irritates you, like got all this new equipment that I was very fortunate to get, in that, I mean, I bought some of it, but then I was gifted stuff. And even when I think about the lights that my friend and his wife gave me, I had to figure out how to like how to use new lights, because I get in a habit of doing things a certain way, and then it's kind of like, even having a new camera, a new webcam, I had to figure out how to set the lighting for this, because but it's different. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, and stuff like that is irritating to me because it's like, bruh, I just want things to work so I could do what I want to do or what I need to do. Just like using a new setup, and then when Jay and I recorded, and man, and I think her episode drops tomorrow, the first, if you listen to this on time, and then if you haven't, if you didn't listen on time, it would have already dropped. But man, that episode, assuming she did her, super producer magic to make it happen, it's by the grace of God that came through because we had so many technology challenges. And that was like the first day of me using my new equipment and not knowing certain things or not understanding how to, work with the setup that I have right now. And so it's kind of like there's always something, you know what I'm saying? And you just have to decide, is what I want, and you got to do what you got to do to overcome the challenges, and you got to do what you got to do to make it happen. You know what I'm saying? You do have control over that. You don't have control over necessarily what happens to you all the time, because sometimes life is just sucks, you know what I mean? But you do have control over how you respond to it. And it's kind of like, man, when you are trying to build something or you trying to work towards something, man, like this past week, just in and of itself, has just been wild. I wouldn't even say the full week, just this week, you know what I'm saying, of this episode dropping, because today's Wednesday. I'm recording the day before. Kind of been getting into that a little bit more lately, which is fine as long as y'all get it on time. I used to, um, man, I remember there was a time I used to have episodes in advance, just, but I don't know. We ain't there no more. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have a lot more going on. But yeah, man, this week has been wild. And I have had to, because I'm trying to launch a business essentials, I guess we'll just say. I'm still tweaking kind of what I want to call it, but we'll just say like a building a business essentials type of workshop. Now, someone requested it because they want me to come teach at their they teach at a hair school, and they want me to come teach. And so I'm putting together curriculum for that, but I'm putting it together a template that can be potentially at other places, because the thing about it is, yes, it can be tailored to the cosmetology barber industry, but it's also foundational things and fundamentals that really apply to anyone who is trying to start a business. Just basically what I've learned from my journey, but also a lot of it is stuff I learned even with podcasting, because some people do treat this like a business because they want this to be their full-time job. This is not something that I want to be my full-time job, but it's still, as I've said many a time, it doesn't mean there doesn't need to be professionalism and etiquette and, even efficiencies in how I do my social media posting. Like, all my business social media posts, I take one day to create them all and schedule, and not even a full day. It takes probably like 4 to 5 hours. And that's mainly because you have to factor in the ADD that makes me check my phone and I have to allow time for me to get distracted, because I just know that's how I am. So being self-aware is pretty good because it helps me to understand my workflow and what's needed. And so this is, again, something I have to overcome. You know what I'm saying? I am not someone who usually can just sit here and just do things without whatever. That's why even with work, when I'm working on certain reports, I listen to podcasts, because there's like something that makes me feel like I'm also doing something else and like kind of distracting my mind. Otherwise, I get bored if I just focus on the same thing for too long. So it's kind of like it takes me like 4 to 5 hours to create all my posts for the week. I post every day from my business page, multiple times per day, actually. I don't usually record the Saturday video that day. I don't know why. It's something that I usually do closer to Saturday. Um, but yeah, I'll sit there and I'll create them all, schedule them all. And that's something that, thank God, there are different ways you can schedule. For Twitter, I get on the website on my computer and schedule them all, because there are scheduling apps that you can use, but they sometimes have limitations on how many posts you can have scheduled at a time. And I easily have, man, some days I schedule like 4 times a day or five, depending when you factor in blogging and podcast episodes. So I just schedule too many different things to be limited on what I can do. And then I use Facebook Business Suite for my um, Facebook pages for the show and my business. And then for the Instagram, for my personal Instagram is tied to my face show, what you call it, show Facebook, and then my business IG. So I schedule all that stuff, and it feels tedious, because again, sitting there just working on the same thing for too long, my brain kind of gets, I don't know, I get kind of bored with it. But that's why I factor in, oh, let me hop on Twitter, or let me see what's in the group chat, or let me do this, or let me do that. You know what I mean? To kind of like feel like I'm doing something else, even though I'm really not. And even though it's still me creating, and I like that, but again, I need, to feel like I'm doing something else. But you got to figure the ways to make it happen, is my whole point of all this, because anything worth having is not going to come easy. Like, and there may be times where you feel like, why am I doing this? Am I gonna make it? But if it's something that you really want, you got to keep going. You know what I mean? Because I feel like, and it's always funny when I look. Okay, let me not go on that bunny trail. You got to keep going. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna go ahead and let y'all get up out of here. My encouragement to you, again, my challenge: address your triggers. You know what I'm saying? Do the work to where you may still be triggered, but that doesn't give you an excuse to act a fool. That doesn't give you an excuse to just do whatever. Like, you have to sometimes you just got to walk away from situations or whatever, but you need to do the work to understand what your triggers are, so you're not allowing you being triggered to influence how you behave. Also, take accountability for your fuck ups, for lack of a better word. When you mess up, you need to take accountability for that. Sometimes you got to apologize, or at the end of the day, just own your stuff. You know what I'm saying? Don't be out here blaming stuff on everybody else like you don't have any sort of part in what's going on, especially if you're doing fuck shit. Again, excuse my language. Sometimes I try not to cuss on here, but sometimes fuck shit is the only way for y'all to understand what I'm talking about. You feel me? And then on the flip side of things, whatever you're working towards, man, you know what I'm saying? If you want it, keep going. Don't stop. Keep going. Stick to the script. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be something that you are going to have to decide, this is what I want. I have to make it happen. And that's literally where I'm at with some things, which it'll make sense with next week's episode, because like I said, there's been some life changes. But as I said before, the only reason I've waited to talk about this is because I wanted to talk about it the way that I wanted to talk about it, and I felt like I kind of needed to wait a little bit before I really was a little bit more transparent about it. But anyways, that's all I got for y'all. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you're taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and relationally so that you are healthy. I will talk to you guys soon. Have a great rest of your week and great rest of your day. Whenever you listen to this, make sure there's no announcements. Again, if you listen to this before October 4th, on Monday, October 4th, there's a West Side Connection karaoke battle on my platform on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. The link to all that is on my website. Even to my YouTube. It's at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, 5:30 Pacific. Make sure y'all come through so you can vote to see who will be the West Side Connection Tamra Till the Break of Dawn karaoke battle champion.
Ladies and gents, this concludes transmission. Tune in next time for a whole new edition. Another adventure and mission to share, be heard, and clarify the vision of this whole new world for Tamra.